I opened the curtains, but it's 6:30. You can still see it's totally dark out here. I don't know. I can't even begin to say all the stuff they're doing to mess with our physical reality, but they are doing stuff. And the last couple days, I've been having this super weird experience. It's hard for me to even explain because it's like so new and different to me. There were certain times where it felt like I was having my soul like pulled out of my body or something, and I would get super dizzy. I've been having a really hard time eating. Like everything, it just is like, no, I don't want to eat that. Oh, I don't like, but I don't feel hungry either. It's weird. And then I keep getting like this, it feels like a band going around my head, like crunching it. And like yesterday, this year, I couldn't hear all day. It felt like when you have a cold and you have pressure in your ear, or on an airplane, it felt like that all day. And if I would have some Benadryl, I would have taken it to dry up, because that is what I have found when you have those pressures and you dry up the fluids, it takes the pressure off. So I would have taken a Benadryl yesterday if I would have had some, but I didn't have any. And so, and I don't want to, I mean, I have like some flu medicine, but I'm just so put off by the chemicals, especially right now when we know we're being bombarded. And any that we add into the mix, it's like, oh, it's like a science project. I keep on saying. And so, what I noticed yesterday, and I have said, like, I think I've even been on here all of a sudden when the frequency comes in and jabs through, it's like super, super strong. And so the last couple days, I've been noticing like this weird feeling. And like I said, like it's, I'm feeling super out of it and stuff. And, like stumbly, like running and like trying to walk and then you hit into a wall, like your equilibrium's off or something, which you could say, okay, well, you know, with the pressure and stuff, you probably have an ear infection or sinus infection, which very well could be. I mean, that we're being flooded, like allergies, but there's snow. Like, okay, there's allergies, but there's snow. Like, that's not how it works. But, you know, you say this stuff and people are like, well, it's science, it's climate change. It's like, yeah, but science told you that this is impossible. And now you're saying it's possible because science is saying that there's climate change. So science changed the rules. And you're just like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's climate change. It's like, there's still supposed to be rules in science. Like, well, you can't have thunder in a snowstorm because it's the two systems meeting. That's why there's so many thunderstorms down south. There's not that many up north. I mean, when I lived down south, it was all the time. Southern California, Texas, Louisiana, even if I go down on vacation, it's just like, you know, I'm going to head into some thunderstorms. Well, now, I mean, they've even, you know, they've gone over the top down there. You know, you can be a snowstorm too. But, you know, up here, we don't have those many thunderstorms. It's a lot more rare. And it is a lot more, I swear, I don't even, I'm trying to think of when there has been one in winter. Because it seems like it's always in more in the late summer, maybe in spring. But usually, thunder is supposed to be the two systems, the heat and the cold, hit each other. And that is what creates that system. But, you know, I mean, right now we've got these things they call clouds going around that never seem to get enough water out. They just stay, these lonely little shriveled up gray clouds. It's like, yeah, I mean, all this stuff they're doing and people just don't question it. So it doesn't make any sense, because before, when I was growing up, it was the clouds turned like that when they filled up with water, and then they let it all out, and then they went back to fluffy. So whatever they've got going now, you know, people just don't question it. Like, people will argue with me about the sun situation. It's like, I'm in the experience. I'm here. I used to sit out and sun gaze. You cannot look at this thing. It's impossible. And you know, like in the morning when I get up, I feel like my eyes are so much better. But as the day progresses, especially when they put that thing out, yesterday, of course, they brought it out as expected, because they had been saturating the ground for days with their whatever they put in this water and ice that they put on us. And I'm sure it's several chemicals, because, you know, these little ice cubes, they just sit out there and sit out there and sit out there. 45 degrees, they're just still sitting there. It's like, but it's science, it's climate change. So, and I know Stella's getting them on her, but when they made it, sunny out yesterday, I was like, I'm not going out there. I just know it's a ploy to get us to come out. And then we've got nonstop with these. It is like, to me, when I very first started noticing the helicopters and the planes and stuff, and I started saying it to the neighbors, and then they're just like, think I'm crazy. I'm a conspiracy theorist who's just looking for problems. It's like, no, somebody who is aware of a lot of stuff, and I'm noticing things. And so the plane's going over, and they're like, well, it's just them monitoring. And when my daughter was here, and these things would go over, I would always run out with my phone and I would try and get them in a video, because I wanted to see what they were, but I also wanted to get video and show like how dramatic this is. And my daughter saw me one time, so then has a whole conversation with the neighbor, on how crazy I am, that I am out there looking at this stuff. But to me, that had to plant a seed to draw their attention into noticing. So my daughter's not here anymore, but the neighbor is. And I can't imagine that they're not noticing. But to me, like, it started out at a certain level, and the level has just gone up. It's accelerated because the people don't seem to notice. That's why I said everything has to get more and more absurd so that they start to notice. See, I think I have some little hairs growing in right here, because I keep seeing them. This is something like alfalfa sticking out there. And it is that almond oil and what is the other stuff? It's an extract. And you can't put it directly in your head because it will burn, but it's the ingredient that they use in Rogaine. But it's an essential oil, and you mix it like 30 parts to 1 part of the extract. I'll have to look. If anybody's interested, they can always message me. But I do see little hairs growing in, and it is natural. So we have to be loving our scalp. Like, I'll do massages and stuff on my scalp even. But, okay, so let me go back to that. So the plane's going over, and it's gotten so much worse. And I'm just like, they have to be noticing. I've just drawn too much attention to it too many times. And now it's so extreme. It's so extreme. It literally sounds like we're in World War II to me. But, I don't know with all of these people. But there was a bunch of things I wanted to talk about. Let me try and... Oh, yeah. So the frequency thing. So last night yesterday, I started noticing how much noise was in my head and in my ears, and how much it was interfering with my thinking. And I think that's what's interfering with everything. And so I started trying to really listen to the frequency, because I was thinking like, okay, for people who don't realize that they have a frequency, like, I don't know if they're testing the thing over here right now, is what it will do, and then they monitor, how many people run up and, buy beer, run to the weed store, or have domestic violence. Like, they monitor all that stuff. When they have got localized experiments, they know, they watch what we're doing, because it's not just physical experiments, it's social. And it's always so that they can outthink us, out mastermind us, to know our weak spots. So they do this stuff, not to help us like people think. So, gathering our data, gathering our DNA. Oh, yeah, it's just to help us. Okay. Watch Dope Sick, which I want to talk more about. So when I was listening, I started thinking it sounds kind of like cricket. Like if you go outside, especially in the South, and in the evening, and you're anywhere by water, how noisy it can be with all the grasshoppers and crickets and frogs and all of that noise. And it's not a pretty sound like when it's doing it as a frequency. It doesn't have all of that nature sounds. It's just like the frequency of those sounds. And because they kind of have that like dialect, if you listen to the frequency, it kind of has like a sound like that. Like what it is, only it's not like how a natural sound. It's like a pitch. And so I was like, okay, this is a lot of noise in my head, a lot of interference in my ears. I'm feeling like pressure in my head. This has got to be, they're doing some sort of frequency attack on us. It's got to be. And then And then it would make it explain like why I was feeling dizzy, why I keep getting these weird headaches, why I'm like running into walls and stuff. And even last night when I went to bed, it was so loud in my ears. I was like, oh my God, how am I ever even going to get to sleep? This is horrible. I'm trying to cover my head and cover my ears to cut out the sound. And finally I went to sleep. But I just was like, this is definitely got to be frequency. So I think that they are definitely, in some places, not every place. I mean, every place is their own unique experiment, you know. And definitely over here, I think they're definitely testing some stuff on us. Like I've said for so long, like we are a beta center here. Like, hey, let's test it on them and see what happens. And then we'll spread it out because we've had this fake sun thing for a long time. I know since summertime when I stopped being able to look at it. Plus, I could tell something was weird just because I know I talked about it because of how the sun goes across like a sundial in my yard where the trees are and stuff. And all of a sudden there was a big jump. And like I was able to sit outside and get the sun for an hour. And then all of a sudden it went to 10 minutes. And I was like, what the hell? Why did it move so fast like that? And I think it's because the way they direct it. Like I said, it's like it's out yonder. Right now it's kind of going across, like it's a little bit closer than it has been for a while, but it's always like out too far. And there's things that when you pay attention to the sun and the sky and the clouds, you just start noticing when things are off, when things aren't right. And, you know, when the sun changed colors. And one thing with me, because it's so cloudy and so overcast, you know, but everything comes around to bite them in the ass because no matter what they try and do, it's going to expose them for who they are. So when all of their cloud stuff up there, because we have that layered sky too, like several systems. I got some cool videos, but the videos never show how dramatic something looks in person. But when you can see, like, you're looking at a sky and then you see a hole in that sky and there's a sky behind that sky, and then you see a hole in that sky and there's a sky behind that sky, and you start seeing there's layering of skies and systems. It's like, what the hell? And even when I was driving that one day and I was doing those videos, and I could see the lines, like Neapolitan ice cream. That was so unnatural. But you could see like where they have their layers of, I don't know, their atmospheric chemically, the layers that they use, you know, spray this one, then the next day spray this one, next day, and then so they create an interaction. Because whatever they're doing, and then the frequencies. And so I was like, man, how many of these people who are more unstable, you know, who are relying on like getting drunk to get through this, and they are, you know, don't have emotional stability, and so many people are in. I mean, when the Dovik started and they started locking us down, you know, it started destroying relationships right away when people were locked up together. They had so many issues towards each other that were unresolved. And so all sorts of relationships were breaking up. But, you know, a lot of relationships that have hung on, like this is a real push on them. Because there, you know, a lot of people are more about duty than about living their truth. And this is part of the experience that we're going through for people to get to that point. Like it really has so much to do with this whole life cycle of what we were learning. And you can see so much of what's being brought to the surface is what we began to prioritize money. We began to chase something, chase the material of this world. You know, and then we find out that there isn't anything in the material world that's going to give you satisfaction. You're always going to be chasing something. When you're chasing something outside of you, you have to find that feeling of completeness inside of you. Then you create the world you want for yourself. You're not chasing anything. You just put yourself on a path. And but it's the process. It's what we have to go through to put ourselves on the path. The path doesn't just, you have to want it for yourself. You have to open yourself up to the path. So you have to do your healing, you know, and the healing at this time, which is quite clear, is this consciousness realizing like, oh, I'm being abused. I need to pull free. I need to be independent. I need to take care of myself. Because that is one thing, and so much with the comments that people, you know, like they just don't know what to do. And I know what I'm here to talk about and tell people, because it is our way forward. Think about like how people used to live, and then we get ourselves in to that position. We form communities. We begin to have like country doctors. We don't need them to have a license. If they understand stuff, if there's herbalists that understand about medicines and stuff, we need to go to these different people in our communities. And, just like people used to, they are just trying to herd us into their smart cities and stuff. But the stuff with dope sick. So if you've not watched stuff about hillbillies, and it's been being brought home so much to me lately, and that's what your guides will do when you're supposed to learn something. They'll just keep bringing it to you and bringing it to you. And so the stuff with the hillbillies has really been sticking out to me. And on Dope Sick, it shows so much about that. So the people who, and I know I've talked about this before, but I'm going to kind of, I don't know, maybe see some new stuff. I'm not sure. But, the people up in the Appalachian, those are the settlers. Those are the people who have been here a long time, and they formed communities. They figured out how to survive in their small communities, and they, most of the people who are in those communities, the community becomes their family. It becomes their home. It becomes, the people that they're involved with. Like in Dope Sick, when the cop came to the woman's house to tell her that her daughter overdosed, and she just grabbed onto him and started bawling. And I was like, can you imagine as a city person, if a cop came to your door and said that, and you grabbed him and started hugging, and they just stood there and held you while you cried for 10 or 15 minutes? Like, that wouldn't happen. I mean, you would find a rare cop that would be like that. It would be a very rare situation. It would probably be because he had some sort of empathy to the situation. He had felt something. He had gone through something, it was in him. And so we would have understanding. But, to be in that kind of community where somebody comes and gives you bad news, and, they're going to stand there and go through it with you. And so I was thinking about, how much they pushed to get these people out of the mountains, and how much they pushed, like them to come in and get educated and stuff, and how many of the mountain people stayed out in the mountains. They didn't want to come. So then they, start calling them hillbillies, and they're ignorant and stuff. And they all talk with a bunch of different dialects. They talk different, and they talk slower. And I think there's a whole reason the way they develop their talking, their language and stuff like that. Just like when you go to a Cajun community, they have a certain way that they talk. All different communities develop a certain dialect. And that doesn't mean they're stupid. Just like what I was talking about the other day, it doesn't matter what books you're educated on if you have common sense. That's what they're trying to take away from us. It's common sense. And so, these people, they may not be well educated in this, this societal idea that they push on us, but that doesn't mean they don't have common sense. It doesn't mean that they're stupid. And they all have more of, some of them are kind of more like that Amish, kind of like they just know what's important. And so that is in Dope Sick. It shows how they were targeted with the opiate addiction situation, that they targeted the hardworking people. They said, well, those people, they need the pain medicine because they're the bones, the foundation of this country, and they work the hardest, and they do the hardest work, and they're getting hurt and killed doing this work, and we got to medicate them. Well, so you medicate them with something that they all get addicted to, and they all are dying from it. And then we see what they're doing. They tell us the things we need, and then they use it to kill people. So the hillbillies not only, and they always do the same thing. They have to degrade people, label people, cause friction, make people think like they're less than. Well, they're less than. And what they did so much with addicts to get people to be like, oh, well, you know, it's the addicts. It's the addicts. Well, when you go in and you do some research and you find out the CIA created the crack cocaine, the whole war, the whole thing was created by them. They did that to the black communities and the jail system. The whole thing was created. And then the opioid epidemic was completely created. And the people who, I had a bunch of things come to my head at once. Hold on. So in the area where they were, they created the whole opioid epidemic. And then when you were watching the show, it's a true story about, you know, the one pharmaceutical company. They're all the fucking same, and they're owned by these rich ass families who figured out that they could make money off of us being sick. And so that's what they do, you know. I mean, there's a whole shady thing behind these drug companies. People trust them, and you shouldn't trust them. And then, so and it is like that movie Old, The Village and Old. Like, that guy has shown so much truth, and in The Village. The Village, I always talk about The Village, you know, how they created fear and how they got people to turn against the other ones, to hold the other ones. Like, no, you just really can't do it. It's going to get, you know, they use us against each other so that they don't have to do so much work. So, you know, they know certain ones to target, certain words to use, so that those people become like the jailers for the rest of us. And so, but in Old, when he showed so much about that we're just science, we're all expendable, and we're science experiments, and they're always testing because they're all in competition with each other to have the next best drug, because then they know that we're all going to have to pay for it. They can charge whatever they want because insurance. I've seen guys on my comments like, well, I don't care. Insurance is going to pay anyways. But insurance is a part of the system. They're part of what's fucking us over. You know, I mean, they're a whole part of the toxic system, and the way they use insurance, government, and everything. These people, the elites, or whatever you want to think of them as, the illuminated ones, they developed, you know, this hierarchy, having a king and a queen, and, you know, spreading their governing. When we left England and said, no, we're not going to be under the crown. They're like, oh, okay, well, we got a government for you. We got you covered. Don't worry about it. You know, we got some shit. We're going to put some rules on you. And then when you find out that we've been paying with our taxes, still been paying the fucking crown this whole goddamn time, it's all fake. Everything they do and say is fake. And all you got to do is, the biggest thing is just question stuff. Just question things. You know, people just become so compliant. They just are like, yeah, whatever. The government does whatever, you know, like, I'll just accept abuse. It's okay, whatever. And they don't look into things. So they don't know anything that's going on around them. And they're just, you know, walk off the cliff, not even blindfolded. They just walk off because they're not paying attention. And so, in that movie, one of the things too that it was not a movie, it's like a mini series kind of, and but it shows it shows a lot of different people and what was going on. It shows stuff about Congress and about the FDA, about the judicial, and you do learn some stuff when you watch it, that's for sure. And how they do things with the wording. That's what I've said all along with the ingredients and stuff. If you watch any of, especially I learned about that when I was watching about the dog food ones. But if you watch any of this stuff, any documentaries about the labeling, you'll see. And where people are, oh, people can say whatever they want in documentaries. I've heard that so many times. Yeah, well, watch a whole bunch of documentaries and see what layers, what crosses, what things do you resonate with, what clicks on, where you go like, oh, I know this is true. Because, you know, you won't know anything's true as long as you keep blocking everything out, you know, then you don't know what your truth is. So then you're just living a life of being satisfied, sitting in the dark. And but when I was watching it, one of the things that was really standing out to me was, and I do this all the time when I watch shows, is I think about the soul group and what they're going through and why the soul came here and what they're going through to experience and what they're learning about. And in that show, I thought it really, really showed so well is, somebody is going through something and how it affects all the people around them. It affects the whole community. It ended up affecting the whole country, and they were pushing to do the whole world. They were trying to spread their drugs everywhere. And I don't know how many countries are having the same kind of epidemic with the opioids. And, the reason that they started doing heroin was because the opioids were too expensive and heroin was cheap. And so, but it was all a created thing. It was all very stoppable. And they knew it the whole time. If you watch Dope Sick, you find out they knew it. They were blocking information on purpose. And everyone who died from it was expendable. And they were doing a lot of cover-ups. So when I was watching what these people were going through and stuff, I was like, oh, see, this is what people go through, this hard stuff. When a tragedy happens, you can't help but reflect on who you were to that person. When somebody dies, you are so caught up in, what you were like, what you should have done different. I should have talked to him more. I should have been there more. I should have, it's a time of reflection. And so all the different tragedies that happen in people's lives where you think like, why would somebody do that? Why would a child come in and die as a child and put the parents through that? Well, it's because of all of the learning and all of the growth that happens from that experience, and how much it all has, we all affect each other. We all learn from each other during these experiences. If you just start paying attention when you watch, because always in movies and shows, it's always showing different soul group stories and different things that go on in soul groups. They sell it to us as entertainment, but it's really, a lot of trauma, a lot of stuff that happens for souls to teach them how to, everything goes back to learning how to love yourself and realizing that what's outside of you is not going to make you happy. You have to be happy on the inside. And I shared a whole bunch of shorts yesterday off of TikTok. You know what's funny too? And anybody who's been watching me since I very first started, and I said back then, I want to, at some point, I hope that people will send me little videos, because even if they don't want to start their own channel, if I get their videos, and I can share different people's testimonials to their spiritual healing and what they've gone through and how they've grown and what they've learned and stuff like that. And so I was like, in my vision board in my head, then I pictured that, on my channel with a whole lot of different people's testimonies. And so when I was looking through it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I was picturing before. All these different people's testimonies to, what they think and how they feel. And I have them all, so he's calling, I was just making sure. So I have all of these different people's testimonies. And then I was like, this whole thing about, content creator, like that really started becoming a thing. Like I never thought anything about it before I started doing it. And then the words take up new meaning. And so then I started being like, oh my gosh, this is like my own little world I'm creating. When you become a content creator, you're creating this little world that you're sharing with others. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is like I'm creating this little library of things that matter to me, things that I view as important, things that I think will help other people. And I'm creating this little library of information. And I know, look, it would be frustrating for some people who don't want to go in and watch all these shorts. And then, because now I've seen it's really hard to find my videos when there's a whole bunch of those little ones. And I tried to figure out how to designate, but it doesn't give me that option. I was even thinking, well, I could go in and just mark all of mine with a heart. So then people could go in and just right away see like a heart, and know that that would be me talking. I know I'm going to try and figure out something, because I know some people don't want to go in and watch a whole bunch of little short things. People on YouTube are more, they want to have something deeper and something to really think about and stuff. So, I mean, most of the people I think that go on YouTube are really there to try and learn and expand and, are looking for answers to some questions and stuff. That's kind of a place where we can share information and expand our thinking. So I think, I know it's irritating to some people to go in and it's like, oh my God, how many of these stupid things are there? Because I'll go in and see like, there's no way I can shuffle them out. So I'm going to figure out something. But I just started thinking, it's really cool. And plus, I could be just a phase. I may stop doing it really soon. It may just, because I do go through phases. But I was like, oh, it's really cool because if this was a library, if somebody was to come in my house and this was a library of information, then I would have all of these different things that somebody could understand of, my perception of the world, how I see things. And I loved yesterday too, where somebody shared one of Shirley MacLaine. It was like, that was my first person that I really followed in this. And plus, she was so famous. And because when you were called a new age person, I mean, we've been made fun of for a long time. I mean, it's 40 years for me. And, called like we're crazy people, which now new age has really taken on a new meaning to me. Now I really get like, oh, new age, we could see things that other people couldn't see because we were being prepared for this time of the change to the new age, because there's certain things that I know and understand now that I'm supposed to share to help other people understand. I think any of us that understand anything, it's so that we can share. It's not so we can get all in ego like, oh, I know more than you. It's not like that. It is about sharing so that we can all build together and all learn together and all understand and, expand together. That's why, like, for me, I'm not going to sit there and go, well, I'm a channeler. Everybody come listen to me because I got the lowdown. I'm trying to get other people to understand you can do this too. You can tune into your own guides. I know that mine, I have it, I think, a little bit easier or something than some people. Some people, it's going to be more of a challenge. You have to learn how to do it. And, I was just lucky that it came naturally for me. But, I think it's part of my purpose, and that's one thing that happens when you start spiritually growing. You start understanding about purpose and that you have a purpose here, and it starts becoming a lot more clear. So I know that some of that stuff is for me to help other people understand. And I know another thing too is, in this time when I've been isolated like this, and, my eyes have gotten so much worse, which, they've been so horrible. And some of the shows I've been watching have made tears get my eyes in it. Or if I cut an onion, it will burn my eyes so bad, like pouring salt on a cut. And some of the times when they just are hurting so bad, I'll put those. I don't want to put any of the gel stuff in it anymore now that they're saying they've got the Neo bots in it or whatever the fuck. But the artificial tears, which I'm sure they're gonna put shit in everything. And but still it feels like salt water on a wound. And I know it is from those laser treatments. I know they burned something off my fucking eyes, I swear to God. Because how much worse they've gotten and how much they burn, they hurt. Oh man, they hurt. But I was thinking that I know when I ask my guys and stuff like, why am I having to go through this? And it's like, because they want me to focus on my inner voice at this time. And being here and being alone, it does give you so much more quiet time so that you can focus on that. Because I'm always going around talking to them. Like, I literally, in this world that we are living in, I would be considered an insane person. Just like I said, the TV's talking, the music's talking, the clock is talking, that I hear voices, I talk out loud to the voices, I'm constantly talking quietly to the voices, but I'm always in communication with them. I'm always talking to them, and I always know that they're around. And I think that it is, everybody to get to learn that. But I do think that there's a reason why that I have been, so isolated like that. Like they've been my friends through this stuff, they've been what's kept me sane through this stuff, the communication that I have with the world outside of me. So the world, the unseen world, the supernatural world that they say doesn't exist. So when I have been focused on them and then my eyes been going bad and stuff, I know it is part of, my own personal kind of expansion or something, and I think it's so I can help people, tell people and help them understand how, see, now I'm doing it. I remember what it was. It's called, it's, as soon as I remember afterwards, it's called hiatal hernia. They told me that a long time ago. Hiatal hernia is some kind of like, you have all these sphincters that go through your body to close, like everything is a system, like I said. This happens and then that will like open the gates. And so you have all these sphincters through your body to keep things from moving when they're not supposed to move. And if you have a hiatal hernia, it's too loose. That sphincter it can't tighten enough. It's just kind of like saggy. And I think it's like a genetic thing. But it gives you bad acid reflux. That's why I have a hoarse throat, because the acid burned up in my, I have like scarring or something on my voice box from it. But so I think that I hadn't noticed before, but I've been talking so much doing this. I think when I'm talking, it just lets the air go down and fills up in my stomach. I don't know how to stop that. I know like the freaking med beds, that's going to fix so much stuff. And when I was thinking about these frequencies and how they keep the frequency so low so that we can't heal, because it makes the poisons and stuff more effective. So they keep us in this low frequency, low vibration. That's why they have to keep us always fighting. They have to keep the vibration low. They're trying to do it right now artificially, because as people are waking up, they want to keep turning us down and keeping us low and keeping us vibrating at that lower, where we're angry and upset and, ready to kill our families and stuff. And people don't even realize like why they feel so on edge. Everybody's gotten to this point of accepting anxiety and depression and, just go get some medicine and everything will be fine. So it's all been a part of their way of training us to think a certain way. But I think that the thing that they're doing with the frequencies is definitely so that they can keep us low. And I think that's why these med beds, that's the whole thing, is just it turns our frequency up so that we can heal ourselves, because we have these abilities. They show it all the time with water. We're mostly water. And you turn up the frequency and it can turn into beautiful patterns. It can turn into beautiful patterns like snowflakes and stuff. And so they are trying to keep it low so that we stay in that like really chaotic, like we can't form. And then, but the med beds, when we go into those and they turn the frequency up, then our body can, like realign. It can, but you also have to be in a healed state. Like I've talked about before, it's really important. The whole thing with the quantum system is going to have something to do with your connection. Like there's some part of it. I mean, it's really important. This isn't all happening by accident. This awakening and this connecting to self and stuff. It's part of the plan. And there's so many people who, keep pointing out about the people who aren't awake and stuff. And, it's most of my family, and I still have hopes that they're going to wake up. But I have no idea. Like, I have no idea why each soul is going through the stuff that they're going through, how and why, and all of that stuff. I think that that we just have to wait and see, like, how it's gonna work out. But I think something's gonna happen that's going to just blow everybody's socks off. And I'm still hearing so much stuff with the water thing. I shared a link. That's the 26th. There's somebody who's going to be doing a documentary kind of show or something. It's called Disclosure part 3, I think. And I think his name's John Shirka or something. Oh, there was somebody else's name I said the other day, and I said it wrong, but now, oh, Moody. Dr. Moody. He's the one who did those near-death experience books that I was reading before. Were really good. And Shirley MacLaine's books are really, really good. But I was so excited that, she's coming back around. But Dolores Cannon, too. All the stuff on reincarnation, and you really start getting a different view of life when you read those things. So, anyways, I was going to say, what was I saying about the frequency, about, I start saying too many things and I can't remember them all. But, anyways, with the frequency, I know that we're being under attack. The chemicals, I know we're being under attack. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to get through it. And I don't know. Oh, that's what it was going to be. The people who aren't seeing, like, I don't know if it's part of their plan is just to wake the rest of us up. Like, there's no accidents. It's not like these souls are really lost beings, It's not like that at all. Their soul knows exactly what the hell's going on. Even if they seem lost, it's just because they're not connected to their higher self. And that has been the beauty of me being on my own, of realizing how important that dynamic, that relationship is in your life. Because, I really feel like my higher self and me are a lot more like, sitting down and having lunch, and a lot of other people don't even realize, like, that there's somebody who's trying to guide them and they're fighting it, the whole time. It's like the avatar in the game. Like I've said before, it's like the avatar in the game is just caught up in the game and they don't realize that there is somebody who's trying to guide them in the game. There's an interference that's happening with the communication. And they're doing that on purpose. They're doing it with frequencies and stuff. Like they're purposely interfering with people's critical thinking and their connection to their higher self. So this is really pulling on my head. I woke up this morning. I got up just because my head was killing me. Man, it's already. And I feel so sure. This is all being under attack during a time of war. But it's the time of the awakening, and it is this time where everybody has to want something more for themselves. They have to connect with themselves. They have to realize that they're being abused, to stop the abuse. They have to set their standards and want more out of life. They have to connect with who they are. It is like your higher self is there waiting for you to acknowledge them, because that is when you step through the next door, Somebody had told me this a long time ago, and I don't even remember if I understood it when they said it, but I understand it now. But they said when they got older, it was like their older self was standing there waiting for them and took them, like, oh, here we go, and that is what it's like when your higher self, when you reach that point of your expansion, that you're connected with your higher self. It's like they've been standing there waiting for you. And, and then it's like a new journey begins. So, there's just all these steps through our growth, through our, what is that word? Our development as consciousness. There's all these steps to get to our true selves, to find ourselves and connect with ourselves and figure out how to be our true selves and love ourselves. And, it's a beautiful experience and it's super exciting. And we do want a world where that is not only possible, but that people are living their true self. They're being themselves. They're authentic. They love themselves, and they have overcome feeling vulnerable and feeling like, somebody who's not going to like me. Because what I have really noticed with the people who are negative and stuff, I don't take it personally now. I just feel bad for them. Like, they just need to see themselves. They need to wake up, that's all there is to it. That's what everything that's going on is all about, because this is a new age. This is a new time. This is a time of expansion, and this is, your soul coming to life and you living from your soul and it's a completely different experience. So anyways, I'll talk to you later. Bye.